Good morning, good evening, good day, all my friends out there in YouTube land. Today I had gotten in an order of echinacea. I do herbal medicines for myself and for my family. And I got my echinacea in and I was going to get it prepared, make some tea bags and a tincture. And I thought, why not show everybody else what I do? So I am what you'd consider an amateur herbalist. I am not licensed and I am not a doctor. So I'm just going to show you uh, some of the herbs that I use, and today's going to be echinacea, and tell you a little bit about the benefits of it and what it can be used for. So let's just get started and I'll show you what I do, and I'll explain a little bit about the herb as I go along. So I do want to say that I am not a doctor by any means. I've just done a lot of research on these herbs and what the benefits are. And I do have some uh, medical books on the subject of herbs that I reference. And I also have a doctor in this area that lives here, and I get some advice from her now and then as far as dosage and that sort of thing. So let me explain this to you. If you want to try it at home, that's fine. But I do not recommend this for children to participate in any way. And you must understand that a lot of herbs are for medicinal uses, and you have to be careful with them because they are actually medicine. Um, Not all herbs are supplementals, and not all herbs are for cooking. So the ones that I'm going to be working with are for medicinal purposes. And I'll show you my process. And I know that some people have their own way of doing things, and you may not agree with my method, but this is what works for me. So um, there's not really a terribly wrong way to do this. And everyone does their own thing. So be nice, because I know everybody does things different. But this is the way I do it. And if you want to try it, you can try it yourself. But I do not ship medicine to anyone that I make. I do not share my medicine with anyone other than my family, because I know what medicines they are taking and I know what allergies they have, and I know them. I don't send this out to strangers, so please don't ask, because I don't know what your medical condition is, and I will not be responsible for harming anyone or giving them something that they will harm themselves. So that being said, let's get into it and I'll show you what I have. Okay, first of all, I'm going to show you how to make Echinacea tea. And this is really good for your immune system. And I bought these little tea bags. You can get like 300 of these little tea bags at a lot of grocery stores. You can order them online. They're very inexpensive. I think I got 300 of these little tea bags for like $1.50. So it's not bad at all. Very inexpensive. And I order my herbs from Star West Botanical. You can look them up online. I think they have very good quality and of herbs, and they're fairly fresh. And you can see my echinacea is chopped and dried, and it comes like this from Herbal Botanicals. So what I'm going to do to make my tea bags is I just take my herb, and always make sure your utensils and especially your hands, are scrubbed clean before you ever start any of this. You want to make yourself better, not sicker. So I just fill up my tea bags, and usually I fill them relatively full. So usually in the tea bags that I use are the smaller size to put in cups and whatever. And I just use a plastic spoon, and 2 scoops of the spoon usually fills up your bag. And then you just pull the drawstring to close up the bag. and tie up your string nice and tight so it doesn't come loose when it gets wet. It's just my thing that I put 3 knots in it. And there you go. There's a tea bag ready to put in your cup of hot water. Now, to make the Echinacea tea is you just take the tea bag, you put it in boiling hot water, and I let it steep until it gets a really dark color, usually about 3 to 5 minutes. It's up to the individual person if you want it stronger or lighter. If you do it light, though, you're not really going to get that much benefit from the herb. So this is my tea bag, and I have a jar, just a big mason jar. And when I make my tea bags, I just put them in the jar. Echinacea is a really good herb that encourages the immune system, and it helps you build up your, it's not going to prevent you from getting a cold or a flu or anything like that, but it does build up your immune system and so that your colds and your flus and whatever your illness is, you recover much quickly from them. Because after all, if your immune system is strong, you fight off colds and flus and things pretty quickly. So, but this is kind of a preventative. I drink a cup of this a day just to keep my immune system strong so that when I do get sick, then it's not going to be like a horrible kind of flu. And I usually am ill because I use my herbs on a regular basis. I don't get ill very often. And, I attribute it to the fact that I do use a lot of my herbs to bolster my system. And I recover pretty quickly in maybe 3 days, 2 or 3 days, rather than, a week and a half and that kind of thing. Now, like I said, this will not prevent you from getting ill, but it will help you get better faster. So I totally am for Echinacea. And it reduces many of the symptoms. I mean, you can still have a cold, but it can reduce a lot of the symptoms that you have, like the fever, and helps with the coughing. And that sort of thing. And some people say that it helps with acid indigestion. That's listed as one of the things that will help. Personally, that is a strange sound. I think a whirlwind just hit the house. That was weird. But it is supposed to help with indigestion. They say ADHD, I don't know. Chronic fatigue syndrome, yes, it does help with fatigue if you drink 2 or 3 cups a day. If you have chronic fatigue or you're tired all the time, this will give you a little bit of a boost. I'm totally against energy drinks of any kind because that's chemical, a lot of chemicals, and it's really bad for your heart. It helps with diphtheria, dizziness, if you're prone to dizziness, bloodstream infection. Echinacea is an excellent treatment for bloodstream infections. For streptococcus infection, which would be strep throat, this stuff is amazing for strep throat. And I use the teas for the immune system buildup that I drink a cup every day. And it's good for, like, if you get infections and that sort of thing too. It's really good for you. But the strep throat, I use a tincture, and I'll show you how I make that in a minute. It's a liquid form of strep throat. And if you take 2 or 3 drops of that down your throat several times a day, I guarantee your strep throat will be gone quickly. And it's also good for tonsillitis, which basically is the same thing. It's a throat infection. And the National Institute of Health warns consumers to be careful regarding some of the echinacea products on the market. And it's very true. Some echinacea products are mislabeled because this herb is not regulated by the FDA. So they don't actually, they test it to see what makes it work and if it's a benefit, for medicines and whatnot. But they don't have any control over the herb. And many of the herbs, they don't have a control over it. So anybody can put something in a bottle like at a health store. I do not buy herbs at health stores whatsoever because they can put anything in the bottle. And a lot of the bottles that have been tested by the National Institute of Health has found that a lot of the herbal stores that claim to sell echinacea in tablet form or leaf form, whatever, doesn't have any echinacea in it at all. It's just a marketing ploy. And a lot of the herbs that you get from herbal stores, grocery stores, that kind of thing, drugstores, you can buy them over the counter, but a lot of them have absolutely no benefit for you whatsoever. So I'm very much against. If you want the real benefit from real herbs, buy herbs from a reputable herbal company. And like I said, I get mine from Star West Botanicals. And you can look them up online, and they are absolutely wonderful, I think. Their herbs are always fresh looking, and they're dried, and they're all natural. So they're just ready for you to use when you get them. And lab tests from the Institute have also shown that some echinacea products that are on the market are tainted with arsenic, lead, and, other things that have nothing to do with the herb, but they can harm you if you have an allergic reaction or if you have a bad heart. They're not always pure stuff. So if you want pure herbs, either grow your own or get them from a reputable company. And herbal remedies are not regulated in most countries. And this means that an herbal remedy. I need to find an herbal remedy for my talking. But they're not regulated. So if you purchase it at the drugstore, what's in the bottle may not be what it says on the label. And Native Americans used it for hundreds of years before the Europeans arrived here. And by the early 1800s, it became a popular herbal remedy for those in the U.S. and also in Europe. It does not, like I said, it does not prevent colds or flu. What it does is help build your immune system so that when you do get sick, you have a faster recovery time. Native Americans say that humans learned to use echinacea by watching elk, seeking it out, and eating it whenever they were wounded or sick. They named the echinacea, the Native Americans named it elk root because of that. So if you want to buy echinacea, there's an excellent selection online. And like I said, I totally believe in Star West Botanicals. And I grow most of my herbs that I can myself, but being out here in the desert, some things just won't grow here. So that's a little bit of history on echinacea. If you want to read more, you can look it up on the internet to read more. And I just make my little tea bags and use it that way for my daily tea. And I got to tell you, it doesn't have the best flavor. So what I do is I put a tea bag of echinacea in a cup of boiling hot water. And then I usually will put a teaspoon or maybe two of natural honey in the cup. And that sweetens it up and makes it a little more tolerable. But I don't mind it now because I use it every day, so I'm used to it. But if you're not used to it, it's got a very bitter taste. It's not all that wonderful. It's not like throw up bad or anything, but it's not all that great. So that's what I do with my little tea bags to make my hot cup of Echinacea tea. Now, if you have strep throat, which does happen, you know, you've probably known someone or had it yourself, I will take a mason jar, a large one, and label it so I know when, you know, what it is and the date that I made it. And I will fill this up. Here, I'll set this up here where you can sit better just a second. Dandy funnel. And I just fill up my Star West botanical bag. This is what it comes in, packaged very nicely. And I'm going to fill my jar up 3/4 of the way full. You only want to go 3/4. Okay, let me see. Okay, that's about as much as I want. It's about 3/4 of the way full. And then I want to fill the jar up after I put 3/4 of the way of the Echinacea herb. Then I want to fill it up with vodka. I'm not going to advertise the name of the vodka. But you want to have 80 proof at least to do your tincture for your Echinacea. And no, I'm not a drinker. I only use this to make my medicines. Okay, so you want to fill the rest of the jar up with vodka. You want to use vodka because it's a clear liquid and because it doesn't have a flavor that will interfere with your Echinacea. You basically just want basic alcohol. And this may take a few minutes. But I do the same method with a lot of my herbs. And I am a total believer in herbal medicine. I make my own medicine. I don't take any medicine from prescription synthetic medicine unless there's just no way around it. I do have a thyroid condition, so I have to take thyroid medication. So there's no way I can make thyroid medication. If I could, I would make it. It's made from, there is natural thyroid medication that is made from extracting from some material from pig glands, I believe it is. I might as well just use the okay. Now this is 3/4 full of the Echinacea herb, and I filled it to the top with vodka, 80 proof vodka. Now I'm going to seal it nice and tight. You don't want any contamination. And shake it up a little bit to get all the herb wet. And there you go. Liquid Echinacea. What's going to happen is you put this in a cool, dry place for 6 weeks. and you have to let it sit for 6 weeks for for the alcohol to extract all the good stuff out of the echinacea herb and make a medicine for you. And you have to be careful giving this to children. I mean, it works, but it does, as you saw, it has alcohol in it. So you can also make a liquid tincture. It's more like a really strong tea if you want to give it to children. But you would have to make that at the time you want to give it to them, because liquid, this will keep the herb sterilized for long periods of time because of the alcohol. Liquid does not keep as long. You want to use it soon. If you use hot water and herb, you have to use it relatively quickly because it can get mold in it and bacteria, and you don't want that for your medicine. This, however, made with the alcohol and the herb, I'm going to put this away, and after 6 weeks it will have absorbed enough into the liquid to make a tincture, medicine tincture, and it can be used for, several things. But, like I read to you earlier, the main thing that I use it for is sore throats, which is phenomenal. And for my immune system, I drink a cup of it every day with 2 teaspoons of honey, which honey also is a good immune builder, so that you don't get sick as often. And when you do get sick, because like I said, it does not prevent you from getting sick, but if you get sick, it makes it shorter period that you are sick. And it makes you feel better. It relieves a lot of the symptoms, fevers. It helps with cough. It's actually a very useful herb to have. So, and if you tend to have problems with fatigue, I know from my experience that it does help. It gives you a little bit of a, it's not drastic. Herbs are not drastic. You don't just, like an energy drink. You take an energy drink and all those chemicals and stuff, in 5 minutes you're like buzzing, This does not do that. This is very subtle. Herbs are very subtle, but they are natural and they are good for you. And they don't tear up your system with all that synthetic crap that they put in. But what I was saying though is I do take Synthroid for my thyroid. In Canada and Mexico, they do have natural Synthroid. It's very expensive from what I understand. But I could order it from there if I wanted, but I just can't afford the cost. So I do take the Synthroid. And another thing you have to remember is if you're going to take an herbal medicine, even if it's echinacea, and you are taking a prescription drug, do not use this. You can use it up to an hour before you take your prescription, or you wait and take it an hour after you take your prescription, because herbs can interfere with your prescription medication. So you can do both. You can have your prescriptions, which a lot of people need, and you can take the herbs too, but leave that 2-hour window, and that either take it an hour before or an hour after you take your prescriptions. That's very important, because you certainly don't, like if you're taking heart medication or a high blood pressure medication, last thing you want is to have that herb nullify your prescription. So just a warning to everybody. Okay, that's all I have on echinacea. I have a whole bunch of other herbs that I do, so I'll do a series on it, but please be careful how you use these. This is not an overdose herb. There are some herbs that I'm going to show you that you have to be very careful because you can overdose on them. And you can make yourself sick by taking too many of certain kind of herbs. Not lethal, but you will become sick. There was a lady that I knew that she knew that I was doing herbs, but I read about them. I read about the side effects. I read about what medicines they interact with. You got to do some research. You don't just start going, oh, I'm going to be an herbalist, because you really need to know what you're doing or you can cause yourself harm. Or, in my case, members of my family. So I'm very careful about what herbs I use, how I use them, and the proper preparation of the herb. Like I said, echinacea is not an overdose herb. You can take that as much as you want. It's not going to hurt you unless you're allergic to it. And that's another reason I don't give herbs to other people outside of my family, because you don't know what you're allergic to. I don't know anyone else. I don't know if they're allergic to anything or what kind of reaction they're going to have. This works well for us, and it might work well for you if you want to try it. But like I said, I don't send herbs to people. I don't send medicine that I make to people, but I will show you how to do it if you want to try it for yourself. If you have any question about any herbs that you take or that you prepare, whether they're going to interact with your prescription medicine, I strongly urge you to talk to your doctor about it. A lot of doctors don't like you taking herbs because, let's be honest. If you can make a lot of your own cures for some of your ailments, and, that's going to take money out of the drug people's pockets and take it out of the doctor's pockets, because you're not going to be in the doctor's office that often. Actually, I do get my share of colds now and then. I do get a sore throat now and then. I take my herbal medicines, and nothing drastic has happened. Actually, I feel pretty good, and it takes care of what I need to take care of. I see my doctor one time a year as a general rule, and that is because I'm not able to, I don't have the knowledge or the laboratory to make natural thyroid medicine. If I were able to do that, you bet I would be doing it. And like I said, you can get it in Canada and Mexico, but the United States does not have the natural thyroid medication. They make you buy the Synthroid or the generic brands, which, by the way, I can't take the generic. I tried taking generic Synthroid once and had a seizure. So something in some stupid chemical in the generic didn't like me, and it caused me all kinds of problems. So, but that is the only prescription I take, and I rely on my herbs. They worked fine for me. I have used them on my animals when my animals got sick, and it works. I had a little duck. Oh, when I get to the golden seal, I'll tell you about my little duck. My little duck had gotten wet feather disease during the winter. So I brought her in the house, and I gave her you wash their feathers underneath and everything with Dawn dish soap. You lather them all up. Let me tell you, giving a duck a bath is an experience. And then, after you get them all bathed and rinsed, you can't leave them wet. Then you have to take a hair dryer and blow dry the duck. Well, this duck wasn't having any of it. I mean, it was it took me an entire day to bathe this duck and use a hair dryer on this duck that didn't want anything to do with it. And I had him in the bathtub in my bathroom, and my bathroom got soaked. He even got it. Water was on the ceiling. I was drenched. I mean, this duck wreaked havoc. And if you ever try to give a duck a bath and blow dry it, have a good time. I hope I never have to do that again. It was just torture. It took me hours to get this one duck, but I got it accomplished. And then I have golden seal that I'll explain more about that later in one of my videos. But golden seal is excellent for if you have eye infection, if you have pink eye, or your eye gets infected from something. Sometimes when I'm out on my lawn tractor, mowing off the property, just the dust and stuff will irritate my eyes so bad, and then they get infected. And if you use golden seal, and you don't use the golden seal with the alcohol tincture, of course. That would really hurt. But you make a golden seal tea, and then you let it cool, and then you just take an eyedropper and just drop it in your eyes and kind of rinse your eyes out. And I'll tell you what, it does not burn. It doesn't hurt whatsoever. I used it on this duck because his eyes were so crusted over from being, his illness, that I used the golden seal on him, and that silly duck lived, and his eyes cleared up, and the vet said that he probably would be blind. He was not blind. That duck recovered quite well. So I know that the herbal remedies also can work on your animals. I have a wound powder that I make for deep cuts, and that sort of thing, for massive wounds. One of my dogs had slashed the back of her foot, her leg, and she got a pretty deep cut, and I'm still not sure how she did that. But I took the wound powder and I packed it in her wound and wrapped it with bandage. And within a week, she was off running again, and it healed up very nicely, very nicely. So I totally believe in herbs, and I wanted to share them with you. But like I said, if you want to try it for yourself, but be very careful, because a lot of these are medicines. They're not herbal supplements, and they're not cooking herbs. So I'll talk to you again later, and I'll explain some more of my herbs to you at another time. And you have a great day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. And if you want, try some of this for yourself. I mean, it really has been beneficial to me and to my family, and has kept us pretty healthy. So I'm a total believer in using herbs for your health. So you take it easy, and we'll talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.